One of the most disturbing facets of the COVID-19 pandemic is the pandemic of misinformation and disinformation it has spawned. Now, it is true that the 91% protection rate that we originally heard for vaccines was somewhat optimistic, but that was to be expected because real-world results generally are lower than what we see in trials. But in any case, the most recent report from the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta tells us that the vaccines work. 66% protection. That's very significant, even against the Delta variant. In fact, that is a higher protection rate than what we see with the influenza vaccine. And then we have a paper from Nature, one of the world's most respected journals, where they looked at cases of people who had been infected with the SARS-CoV-2 virus and subsequently had a vaccination. And it turns out that while the original infection does result in some acquired immunity, certainly giving them the vaccine improves it. It gives an added boost. And then we have this fascinating study from Kentucky, where they looked at people who had been infected and subsequently reinfected and compared them to people who had been originally infected but subsequently were not reinfected. And it turned out that people who were unvaccinated were 2.3 times more likely to be reinfected. And then we have the latest. Again, this comes from the CDC. Very reliable data from Los Angeles. They examined 43,000 cases of infections in people over the age of 16, and it turns out that the unvaccinated are 4.9 times more likely to be infected, and get this, 29 times more likely to end up in the hospital. So in summary, vaccines work. Not quite as well as we had originally hoped, but they still work very well. They prevent infections, they prevent reinfections, even in people who have acquired natural immunity from having contracted the disease. The vaccine gives a boost in immunity. And most important of all, the vaccines keep people out of the hospital. Now, if we only had a vaccine for misinformation and disinformation. But that is a tough task. And that is our Cup of Joe for today.